Hello, how are you? Welcome. It's Christy here. It is Monday, March 30th. So we are just on the tail end of March. We're probably heading into, for a lot of us, for me, really kind of week 3 of this new temporary normal around navigating the world and business when everything is on pause and there are a lot of really important things happening in the world. And oftentimes doing our part is not going out and staying home and staying healthy. And what does that look like then for our businesses? What does that look like for our mental health? What does that look like for our customers and our clients? What does that look like for our families? And these are really important questions. And hopefully you are starting to settle into somewhat of a routine now, that you've moved past the shock and the panic phase with that adrenaline, and you've started to create some systems in your life and your business that are going to set you up for success. Last week, I talked a lot about this idea of making decisions, and that you've got to make decisions in your business, and finding that balance of making those decisions from a proactive, intentional place versus from a reactive and fear-based place. And sometimes that's hard because there is a lot of things to be scared about, but you've still got to make decisions and really breaking those decisions down. And what I want to talk about today is the importance of taking actions. A wise person once told me, and I wish I remembered who it was so I could give them credit, that your actions are your decisions. It's one thing to say, this is what I decide, but until you take actions towards it, it's an intention to make that decision. And that the actions that you take on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis are what are going to create your results. And so the decisions are the first part that help us decide on those actions. But if you don't take action on those decisions, you haven't really committed to the decision. And so what I want you to challenge you to do is think about, for this week, when you look at all of the decisions that you need to make in your business, when you look about the decisions about how you're going to interact with your current customers, when you look at the decisions about how you're going to interact with your future customers, with your prospects, with your audience, when you look at the decisions that you have to make for your team members, when you look at your decisions about how you are going to invest in your business or protect cash flow in your business right now, what actions do you need to take this week to start turning those decisions into implemented results? And so does that mean that you need to pull together contracts that are different for your team members? Does that mean that you need to pull together a new payment plan for your existing customers and communicate that proactively? Does it mean you need to be reaching out to 3 people in your network every single day? Does it mean you need to be picking up the phone and calling your customers? Does it mean you need to spend some time with an SBA expert learning about resources that are available for small businesses, whether that be grants or whether that be loans? Really, I want you to think about what are the action steps you can make. I know here in Bend, Oregon, there are a tremendous amount of resources. And sometimes when there's so many resources, it can become hard to navigate which action to take. And so, there's been people at the Haven that are putting out resources to SBA loans and how to take advantage of those loans and grants that are very helpful for me. So looking into an SBA grant situation is one of my critical action items for this week. Opportunity Knocks, which is another tremendous support for business owners in the Bend area. They're putting together a panel of people who have been through really hard times in their businesses and come through those before. That is something that's on my schedule to attend that. So that's an action I'm going to take, is to attend some educational sessions so that I can have the best information that I have for my business and also to support my customers. So those are critical actions that I can take in my business this week. Another critical action that I'm going to take in my business is to connect with anyone who's ever been a client of mine, to reach out to see how I can support them. That's a critical action that I can take in my business this week. What I don't want you to do is create a list of action steps that's so overwhelming that you're not going to be able to execute it well and with consistency. So the first step in this action item is to look at all of the decisions and the categories of decisions that you're going to make in your business. Make the decision here first, right? Like choose what you're going to focus on and where you want to go. And then based on that, brainstorm all of the actions that you need to take in order to actually implement those decisions, in order to make those decisions happen. So brainstorm the list of all of the decisions. It might end up being a list of 40 different things. You are not going to necessarily have the bandwidth to do 40 things really well today and this week. And so set yourself up for success. And instead of trying to do all 40, ask yourself, which are the most critical for me? What are the things that are going to help take off some pressure so that then I have the bandwidth to execute the rest? Is there one decision that you need to be making right now that you need to be executing on in terms of taking action that then will position everything else that you do, right? So for me, one of the decisions that I have made in my business is I was planning on later this month launching an online community for consultants and commission-based professionals who want to double their revenue in 2020 and who want to use proactive outbound strategies in order to do that. I made the decision that I'm still going to launch that. So now I need to be thinking about what are the actions that need to happen, right? Is it, finalizing the checkout page? Is it writing the emails? Is it letting people know about it and putting together a social media strategy? What are the actions that I need to be taking? When I start writing it all down, it can look like a lot, but I can say, okay, the most important thing is that I want to do first is really this video series that I'm going to offer, because that's going to shape everything else. So that's going to be my priority this week. That's the action I'm going to take, right? So you can start to narrow it in. I don't want you to have more than 3 critical actions to take in any given week to support you in your decisions. Sometimes if you're like me, when things get crazy and there's stress, I double down. I'm like, let's go. Now's the time. I'm in. Like, let's figure it out. Let's solve for the problem. And I am like 100 miles an hour out of the gates. There's a lot of great things about that, but it can also create a lot of overwhelm. And what I don't want is that you go out of the gates really fast and you're taking all of this action, you're making all of these decisions, and then next week you're exhausted and you don't follow through. So you spend all this time and energy, but you're not creating consistency. This is a marathon. So this acute phase that we're in, it will not last forever, but it is definitely going to last for more than a week, more than 2 weeks, probably more than 3 or 4. And so how do you break down the things that you need to do so that you still have energy and motivation and engagement 4 weeks from now? It's going to be stressful during that time. When things are stressful, it doesn't mean we have to hide, but we want to also be mindful of how much you're taking on, that you're not trying to do everything today. And instead you're saying, okay, for me right now, understanding what the SBA emergency loan and grant programs are is going to be critical. So I'm going to devote an hour to that. And then I'm going to work on the other things I want to work on my business. But give yourself 1 to 3 priority actions that you're going to take to implement the decisions that you've made in your business and take action on those things. You can do more than that. But if you have this idea that you're going to get it all done, it's not being very kind to yourself and it's not being very compassionate. And you're also going to end up probably being very reactionary, because here's what happens. For every action you take, there will be a follow-up action that happens. So this to me is something that kind of drives me crazy when I'm trying to be consistent about my emails. I'm like, I'm going to send out all these emails today. Then everyone replies to me and I have to reply to their emails, right? Like action creates more action. And so if you take 15 action steps today, that might be fine for today. But then if you're trying to do 10 additional action items tomorrow, and then you have 10 follow-up items from the actions that you took today, now you have 20 action items, right? And it keeps building and building and building. And so it's better to start smaller. What are the 3 most important actions that you need to take this week? take those so that you can do the appropriate follow-up, so that you have bandwidth to follow through on those. So it's not just starting a lot of things, but it's initiating, taking the action, but then having the bandwidth to follow up. You are going to, in some ways, have less bandwidth now because stress takes up mental bandwidth. You're thinking through things, right? You're brainstorming, you're problem solving, you're trying to figure out how to get toilet paper. All of this stuff takes energy. Your brain runs on energy. And so you might not have the same bandwidth that you had 2 weeks ago. It might take longer to get things done. It may take more energy mentally to get yourself ready to go than it did before. So narrowing down that action items is something that is going to be critical to your success. So just to recap, what I'm asking you to do for your business this week to continue to build momentum, even in times of crisis, is to look back at all of the decisions that you identified you needed to make in your business. Which ones did you make? And then from those decisions, what action steps need to happen? Are there communication plans that need to be rolled out to your team? Are there outreach efforts that need to happen to your clients? Are there strategies in terms of executing and finding resources that you need to be looking at? What of those things, write down all the actions, brainstorm, brain dump it, get it out of your head, put it on a piece of paper, and then narrow it down to your top 3. What are the top 3 things that you need to do this week to help you to sustain through this marathon of this acute phase that we're in, where it is not business as usual? So what are those 3 action things that you can implement and action steps that you can take to follow through on the decisions that you made that will impact your business now and in the future? Share in the comments below. Let me know if you are stuck, if you have questions, if you're having a hard time prioritizing. Reach out to me. I am here to support you. I want to see as many businesses, as small businesses, micro businesses, consultants succeed during this time, because this is how we are going to get out of a recession faster. The more people that can make it through this time, that can thrive through this time, the more money we have to invest in our communities to give back to each other and to support each other so that we can pull out of this recession that's going to happen likely stronger and better. And that is my goal. So if there are things that I can do, if there are specific questions you have, if you're wondering, how do I find resources in my community? Who's talking that I should be listening to? How do I communicate with my employees? How should I be reaching out to my customers? What can I do to take action in a way that feels like it's aligned with what's happening today and not just totally ignoring it, but that I'm still moving forward? Send me those questions and I will address them on these Facebook Lives or with you individually. So send me a message. I am here to support you. Have a great week. Today is a Monday. It is the beginning of a new week. On April, it will be the beginning of a new month. So we are in a new time with a new week, soon to be a new month. And how do you want to move forward into this new reality? What action steps do you need to take to support that happening? And I am here for you. I will see you tomorrow right around 10 o'clock.